and welcome to the next installment of a few reviews. This video was supposed to come out before the end of October, but between moving states and getting sick and pretty much losing my voice, here we are. Talking about literature, film and other media is an interest of mine, and I love expanding my horizons. So I'm hoping these quick little snapshots will help other people explore beyond their usual genres or favourite mediums and start a conversation about these works. So in quickfire style, I'm going to power through a few reviews. Again, I'm going to start with some reading reviews. First up is A Secret History of Witches by Louisa Morgan. I unboxed this book as part of my online QBD order in a previous video, but I did a terrible job of sharing the premise of this book because I couldn't find the blurb. But having now read the book, I can say with confidence, this witchy historical fiction takes the reader on a journey through generations of witches and the trials they faced. From 1821, I think it is, to the late 1930s, this book feels authentic with each era, and the writing transports you straight into the mind of the next character. Each woman has a unique relationship to the craft, but they all seem to face the same debilitating fear of society and being caught. Some use their power for good, while others a bit more selfishly. And this subjectiveness is reflected in the ebb and flow of the power from the goddess. The author has written some other books seemingly set in the same world, so I'm very interested in jumping into some of her other works to keep exploring the world she's created. My next book is Marketing with Social Media, written by Linda Coles. A major part of being an author in the modern age is carving out a presence on social media. My mum loaned me this book and I have not been disappointed. Don't be fooled by the business label on the cover. The reality is, being a creator with a product to market means the other side of your job is running a business. So far this book has been really informative in a super easy to understand way, very friendly. I've discovered so much positive affirmation from this book so far, things I'm already trying to implement and my plans for the future. To know I'm not investing all my time and effort for nothing is a big relief. I'm still reading this book, taking lots of notes as I go, so I'm hoping to pick up more tips and tricks as I continue. Another book I unboxed in my QBD order was the Brothers Grimm Fairy Tales. This collection has something crazy like close to 200 stories or something, and while we're only just scratching the surface, so far the stories have maintained their reputation for having weird and wonderful characters and plots. I am most excited for the stories that have later been adapted by Disney, but I am intrigued to read some of the less known folklore within this collection. Moving on to some things that I watched. Take a procedural cop show, but make it 10 times more authentic with diverse, well-acted characters and a compelling storyline, and I present to you 19-2. A series following Canadian cops through the harrowing reality of police work. With interesting camera work and a chilling soundtrack, this series combines romance and action with raw emotions, trauma, cynical humour, every kind of violence, and spectacular moments of genuine happiness. This show can make you sympathise with the worst characters when it chooses to, and then just as quickly it can strip that newfound sympathy away. It holds your attention and can make you cry, laugh, cringe and reflect all in the same episode. It's refreshing to watch a cop show that doesn't skip over the corruption, it doesn't present the police as superheroes, and it doesn't villainize every criminal. Most of all, it keeps you guessing, and most of the time surprises you when you least expect it. Lucky for me, Where the Crawdads Sing was still showing at the outdoor cinema in Broome when I finally got around to watching it. I read the novel a few months prior and I absolutely loved the will they won't they romance, as well as the contrasting information between Kaya's story and the interwoven investigation. This tale is kind of like Tarzan meets To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's about a girl growing up in crippling poverty in the marshes of North Carolina. Watching the film outside in the humidity with bugs all around and bats flying overhead was a really immersive experience, I must say. I was concerned that the film would lack a certain grit to it when I first saw the trailer. In the book, Kaya was depicted as someone who basically grew up outside. There's mention of her olive skin and the fact that she spends every day outdoors, feeding gulls on the beach, those kind of activities. In the film, she was very pale and nowhere near disheveled enough. But you can excuse these details when so much of the book was perfectly captured by the film. And again, I'd like to mention a YouTube channel that I love, and today that's Janelle at Rosary Apparel, an Australian seamstress who makes really beautiful pastel and cozy videos. This channel is everything surrounding handmade sewing projects. Janelle has a lovely demeanour and fashion sense, and I actually followed one of her tutorials recently in a previous video of mine to make a little pouch with a zip. The music in her videos is so relaxing and her instructions are easy to follow. Along with very aesthetic sewing montages, she sometimes includes some thrifting vlogs, tutorials, and behind the scenes of running a small business. She even sells her own dressmaking patterns, which hopefully one day soon I would love to buy. Okay, now for some listening reviews, starting with Inside Creative Writing, previously known as Brad Reed Writes, I believe, a podcast guiding listeners through the world of writing through discussion of craft techniques and interviews with authors and other industry professionals. There really is something for every kind of writing medium in these episodes. And there's even an opportunity for listeners to call in and share quotes or snippets of advice that they have to be featured in an episode. I love the chill lounge vibes and the way the host, Brad Reed, strikes a balance between informative but casual. His episodes are short and sweet with lots packed in, and he even assigns little homework activities to do after each episode. I haven't started working on any of those activities because I'm normally listening when sewing or out walking, but I do plan to go back through previous episodes to do those activities. The inspiring quote and affirming sign-off definitely get you motivated to write at the end of each episode. Next up is Myth Understood, a podcast about Greek and some other mythologies. It's a laid-back podcast with Paul sharing his extensive knowledge with Sarah, but it's all Greek to her. Not my joke, that is in the very catchy theme song. I came across Myth Understood when I was looking for a mythology podcast to get into, and I've only listened to 3 episodes so far, but I really love the spilling the tea storytelling style and the corny humour. I know a fair bit about Greek mythology myself, but this podcast adds new details and characters that I've never heard of, delivered in a really fun way. And lastly, I listened to my first ever audiobook when we drove from Broome to Darwin just recently. A good friend of ours couldn't recommend enough the Ray Porter recording of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. We had a long way to drive, so we got Audible and downloaded the audiobook so that we could keep listening when we were in the middle of nowhere. Boy, can we see why this audiobook won some awards. Not only does Ray Porter just have a really nice narration voice, he also does all the accents, from a Russian man to a Dutch woman, and just about everything in between. The story itself is unique and moving. It's sci-fi meets linguistics meets a physics-loving teacher. Is it strange to say you feel like you were taught science by a fiction novel and enjoyed it? Well, that's what Project Hail Mary achieved. The story lets the truth unfold gradually, with flashbacks that draw the reader, or listener in our case, further and further into the main character's journey, their mysterious circumstances and struggle for survival. There was lots of humour, no doubt heightened by the amazing narration, and just so much believability. We were sad when it was ending, but we were pleasantly surprised by the turn of events. To finish up, I just have 2 honourable mentions, starting with The Addams Family. To get into the Halloween spirit, we watched the 1991 Addams Family movie. For the first time, actually. All I can say is Morticia is an idol, and her relationship to Gomez? There's plenty of spooky goodness in this film, with fun bait and switches to show off the family's quirky ways. Now to watch all the other films and series adaptations before the new Netflix one. I also finally got around to watching the new adaptation of Dune, which I must admit wasn't as epic as I expected from all of the hype surrounding it. The cinematography was stunning, but the story itself really clung to that slow burn 80s sci-fi style. That being said, Stellan Skarsgård was an amazing villain, and the Dragonfly aircraft were really cool. So there you go. A quickfire snapshot of some of the things I read, watched and listened to in October 22. I hope you explore some of them if you haven't already, and feel free to continue the discussion in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on these works, but in the meantime, you know the drill. Like a video to feed the creator for a day, subscribe to support them forever. Until next time, keep exploring. But having now read the book, I can say with confidence, gosh, Hail Mary Project Hail Mary. Let's hope that was good enough.